Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chronicles of Hollywood History, past, present, and future. Welcome. And here now, Corey Gomez.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chronicles of Hollywood History, past, present, and future. Today, I am joined by a voice actress, Miss Fryda Wolff. You may know her as Loba from Apex Legends.
And other stuff.
And other stuff, yes. Like Mobile Suit Gundam, Resident Evil.
Or IMDb, yeah.
Yeah, IMDb can come out really handy sometimes, but, and you did voices for Justice League.
Actually, yeah, I got to be, DC has happily typecast me as a villain twice, and Marvel once, so apparently baddies are my jam, which I'm totally into, because any actor will tell you that the villains are the fun parts, because they actually have, like, the interesting lines, and they have depth, and they're not just like, I do good! I mean, we're getting, whatever. We are getting, post the Iron Man MCU, we are getting to more like, oh, we'll show you a multifaceted, deeply flawed character, an anti-hero who will ultimately rise to become a hero. Yeah, whatever. It's still fun to be the villain. Anyway.
Well, what's odd is, as a lifelong comic collector, and DC, I prefer DC Comics over Marvel, but I don't understand how DC can make the most amazing animated films, and I put them above Pixar, above everyone, and yet they can't get it right with the movie, where Marvel makes these amazing movies, and their cartoons really stink, to be honest with you. I'm really trying to figure out how DC has the formula for TV and cartoons, yet can't click it into a movie.
Well, you have to follow the money. DC isn't DC, it's Warner Brothers, and Marvel isn't Marvel, it's Disney. So you can come to your conclusions that way.
Well, and I work for Warner Brothers, so maybe I'm biased, but I don't know. Like, I love the Marvel movie. I liked the last DC movie. I did enjoy Birds of Prey quite a bit.
I mean, I don't know. I would, like, a lot, I mean, if you work in production, a lot goes wrong, if someone's not pulling their weight, or there's a serious trickle-down effect, if, whoever's, like, the bottleneck for what gets out the door is very constricted and doesn't let interesting decisions get made. Like, there's just, like, the general public has no idea what a miracle it is for a game, a movie, or an animation to actually get out the door, or to be, like, watchable. It is just a miracle every time that's, something is better than mediocre, frankly. Especially when you have those kind of mega budgets with mega crews on them. So, what's his name? Phage? Kevin Feige, is that his name?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not going to pretend to know anything. I have my understanding of, like, the film industry is on par with anybody else who's just an idiot on the internet, because that's not my world. I only live in voiceover. But my estimation is, like, they made Kevin Feige essentially the showrunner, master executive producer of handling the MC. They're like, you do it. And I'm sure, he's still got his masters that he has to answer to, but my understanding is that he has, like, a comedy background, so that sort of, like, dictates everything that came out from under him of what is, now acceptable, versus something more strict, like thinking old school Superman movies. I don't know. I mean, I grew up on Tim Burton Batman,
Sorry.
That kind of, like, I very firmly believe in handing properties over to people because you trust their lens. Like, when you give, Fincher a property, you're getting a Fincher movie. You give Tim Burton a movie, you're getting a Tim Burton movie. So I just, as a person who came up in production, because I used to work in games, with proper guidance, because auteurs are not to be trusted, because someone who's like, I'm in charge of anyone who says that they're also going to manage but also create is insane, and they're going to tank the whole ship. But with proper guidance and management, you can really get something interesting, unique, and just something that stands alone if you give a creator control of a property and let them just sort of do their, like, just get out of their way, have an editor, try not to censor them too much. I don't know. I feel like if you want to talk comics, I think the people who are doing it most successfully right now are Seth Rogen and his partner, because they had success with Preacher. They're having great success with The Boys. I came up reading The Boys, and it helps that The Boys isn't on network television, but that's as faithful an adaptation as you're going to get.
Oh yeah,
that's watchable. It's really difficult. I mean, like I'm very forgiving because I come from production, but like you're asking for a lot if you want something to be as exciting and as deep from the comic book to, on camera. You lose a lot of translation. You have a lot of people in the way who are gonna want to censor this, or take out this, or edit this, or like amalgamate and combine characters. Just like a lot can go sideways. So I don't know. I'm biased in that. Just like if you come at me about anything with like who's better in the book, yeah, dude. Nothing's ever going to be like the movie in your head. Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. And then be grateful that anything got made at all. Because there was a 1 in a million chance that the thing would get greenlit in the first place. I don't know. I come from a place of gratitude because every job to me is a miracle.
I'm one of those comic book fans that was smart enough to figure out very early on that a true comic fan makes up 1% of the audience. So, you have to accept change and everything like that.
Yeah.
Personally, I'll tell you how accepting I am. I love the Bloodshot comic book, and I also really like the Vin Diesel Bloodshot movie that had nothing to do with the comic book.
I didn't even know. I saw that a sequel just got announced, and I don't know if in the hustle of COVID or whatever, I've never heard the word Bloodshot. I'm a Vin Diesel fan. I saw Pitch Black in theaters because I'm an old person.
Oh, I did too. I saw it in theaters.
So
Fast and Furious are my favorite films.
So I had I'm like, what is this Bloodshot? And why didn't I hear about the first one? But I think just
because it made 50 cents.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like Vin's able now to be like, I want to make this movie, and they're like, well, you keep making these Fast and Furious movies, you can do whatever you want in between because you're making us billions. So I think they let him kind of pick whatever he wants to do on the side.
Good. That's how you achieve success. You do commercial work for paying the bills so that you can afford to do the interesting work for no money.
Yeah, I'm sure how much money do you think the guy probably gets paid for going, I am Groot?
Too much.
Yeah.
More than I will ever see.
I'd do it for free. Just to say I did it. So how did you get into voice acting?
So I had a 12-year career in video games. I got into the game industry when I was 18, and I ended up spending the last 9 years of the 12 years in games as a sound designer. And when you work in audio, you just end up, whether you're doing placeholder VO for games or whatever, or you are assisting or scheduling voice actors or whatever, I was part of the assembly line for making the sausage. And at one point, I thought, because when I was living in Orange County in Irvine, Los Angeles is up to 2.5 hours in horrible traffic, but with no traffic, an hour and change. And I was getting more involved and invested in, by that point, I had co-directed a few sessions, which I had absolutely no right to do. When I was I turned 24 in the studio, being the sole client, next to a booth director for EverQuest 2, and I had Sony Online for some reason trusted me when I was 24 to be 2 weeks up in Burbank during my birthday to be co-directing a bunch of people who I now work alongside. And then nearly 10 years after that, I just thought, well, I'm close enough to Los Angeles, and I want to be a better director, and I want to understand what I'm asking actors to do. So on my own, on weekends, I just started coming up to LA taking voiceover classes. There's a bajillion of them in town. I did Bright Citizens Brigade, which is an improv school, and I was just trying to wrap my head around what I was asking people to do in the effort to make myself a better director. And at the same time, and I did this over casually over the course of 4 years. So I didn't go to college, but I funnily got a 4-year education. Vocation or whatever, and then at the same time I was getting burned out in the games industry, and my last experience was just so bad because of a completely unresolvable personality conflict that I was just kind of bottomed out, and the light bulb went off and I went, ding, oh, I accidentally a voice actor because this whole time I've been like training and I think I could do this. I think I could do this. I think I can do this. So I waited to get fired from the job, and I finally got fired in October, and then was making voiceover demos in December. This is in 2012, I want to say, and then made demos in December, and then I was what we call hip pocketed with an agent by April of the following year. So hip pocket is when you're new in town and you cold called a bunch of agencies and you're like, hey, I'm a voice actor, here are my demos, and I'd like, if you please contact me. We just get 10,000 of these a day, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And this is what ended up happening. Like, one of the classes that I took was with Richard Horvitz, who's mostly known as the voice of Invader Zim. And on my website, if you go to FrydaWolff.com, there's a tab that says how to become a voice actor, which I'm pretty proud of because it gets cited a lot. All the links and resources I put on there are either people that I've worked with or worked for that I personally vet or have been vetted to me. And like, keep in mind, you can take classes forever. People are thrilled to take your money. It's up to you to decide, oh, I'm a professional now. It's just time to like dive in the deep end and do it. Or people will let you know very quickly, you're not ready, go back to class, whatever it is. So Richard Horvitz, Invader Zim, was one of the people that I took classes with, and I highly, highly, highly recommend him, especially for animation stuff. He's still teaching. You can Google Richard Horvitz classes. And bizarrely, and he also produced my demos. Bizarrely, I cold called like literally every agency in LA, and I got 10 out of like well over 100, easily over 100, maybe 120, I want to say. I heard back from 10, which is a very high number to begin with. And bizarrely, at the exact same time, I heard 2 of those 10 agencies. One was the agency that Richard was leaving, and the other was the agency that Richard was going to. And so I was like, well, I want to follow Papa. I want to go with you. So the other agencies were willing to sign me. Hilariously, the agency that he was leaving asked me to come in to audition in their booth, and then they wrote back, we're sorry, we just feel that your reads aren't competitive for the market, which makes me laugh because if you look at my IMDb, I've done all right. So that's their loss of their 10%. Very funny to me. I mean, basically, like when agents take on an actor, they're betting on a horse, and they're deciding whether this horse is going to make them any money, and they just, they bet poorly. And then the agency he was going to, my current and only agency I've ever been with, they were only willing to hip pocket me. So it was kind of like a big neg, where other agencies were willing to like just sign me blindly. They were like, eh. So the hip pocket means we're not signing you, because like when you quote sign with an agency, it's a formal contract. It's like 300 pages thick. It's enormous. You go in and sign for half an hour, and it has a lot of clauses and crap in it. The hip pocket is you are essentially still a freelance contractor, who can still work with whatever agency, whoever, and you don't have to tell them. Like, you're basically, it's like an open relationship. You're dating, they didn't put a ring on it, and you're free to date other people. You can work with other agencies, whatever. So they hip pocketed me for 8 months before finally signing me, and I've been working steadily ever since. And it's been it'll be 9 years. 8 years next April, formally, since I got the agency. And I kind of always make the anniversary of, quote, when I became a voice actor, when I signed with the agency, only because agents are still the gatekeepers to the real money and the real projects. There are a bajillion websites on the internet that act as mega portals where you can find mostly non-union auditions, and anybody can sign up as a voice actor, and anybody can post their project, but they're getting what they pay for. So you might be getting actors who don't have an agency. They may not be very good, and that's not causation correlation. It's not mutually exclusive. If you don't have an agent, that doesn't mean you're not good. But typically, the people who are good and work a lot have agents, and they don't have to go through those websites, because we just get all of our auditions through the agency. But you can go to any website and get whatever job, and then the problem is that, like, because it's like a free Wild West market, the rates that they're offering tend to be really low because they're circumventing, undercutting the union rates. They're offering things called buyouts, which would never equal to like residuals, residuals are permission to keep running a commercial, for example, or keep airing the episode of the cartoon that you featured a voice in. It's just a bad deal. But I highly recommend those websites when you're starting out. Like I at one point was doing radio commercials for broadcast in Spanish with a guy who was paying me $35 a pop, which a union rate for a commercial, the booth time alone is like $450. Anyway, I knew I was being scammed, but it didn't matter because I was still I was collecting demo material. I was paying for the experience, and I was okay with that. And when I got my agency moved on, I was like, hey, it's been great doing business with you, but I just have to tell you, these are my new rates. I need to be union competitive. I'm moving on. And he wrote me this amazing, like, classic abusive relationship nastygram email of like, you'll never make more money than you're making with me. Nobody pays more than $35 a spot, which is just like hilarious in retrospect. So that's kind of how I got my start. Just I had a very thankfully smooth transition from video games and being on the other side of the glass. Like I've been the client. It's very funny now that a lot of the actors that I used to direct are now, my competition and my peers, and the studios that I directed at are places I go into work. The booth directors that I used to get paid now boss me around. It's a beautiful circle of life, but I've been a working adult since I was 18, and I'm 38 now, so, it's been a long time. So I've been around a while. There's a very funny phenomenon where when someone comes around and they're suddenly, like, working all everywhere, it's like, oh my god, overnight success. Yeah, overnight success 10 years later, or whatever. It's usually that people have just been working a long time that you just didn't notice before, and I think I'm one of those. Or I like to think I'm one of those.
Well, now you're, of course, achieving massive success right now, especially with the Apex Legends now in just launching Season 7. Why do you think the Apex game has such a strong appeal?
That team bends over backwards with their character design. And not just character design, but like, and not just like the aesthetics, like what does the character look like? They go so deep into lore and backstory. Anybody who follows Apex knows that like every character gets like 3 or 4 marketing videos just to introduce them. Never mind like ongoing content. And for a long time now, it's like, quote, the future of video games is just like, story matters. It doesn't matter to everybody. Like I personally, as a gamer, I appreciate games that don't force me to care about the story unless I really want to. It's there if I want it, but it isn't interrupting my gameplay if I'm not in the mood. Apex is very much like that. If you just want to like jump in and shooty, great. Or if you want to really like deep dive into the world, they've made 10,000 videos. Every season they have ongoing, like, there's like relationship quirks between certain characters. Certain characters don't like each other. Certain characters have an arc where they grow closer over time. That stuff it invites you to engage on a level where you care and bond with the characters. And that's where stuff like fan art and fandom in general comes from. Because like any artist can come up with like a cool character, but other than just like the initial appearance and aesthetics, you kind of forget about it unless you care about them on an emotional level. So certainly, I think Apex has succeeded in that, Overwatch has succeeded in that, but that is all because of the amount of resources poured into backstory and lore and extended universe stuff. Even if it's in the form of marketing videos, like those marketing videos are art, inarguably.
Now, why should fans play as your character?
Because she's dope. Well, like gameplay-wise, mechanically, it's always fun to have a character that can teleport, and that's her big deal. Is that she's a teleporty, blinky character, and she also has like her little mobile store. But also, I can understand if you don't want to play as her, because like her whole appeal is that she has like the ass the size of a Mack truck, and that's not a game you play in third person. So I get it. Mm-hmm. You're just missing out if you're not. Like, what are you gonna do? Turn around in a circle like a dog? Probably not.
How long do you think Apex, are they already working on Season 8?
They have a very long-term business plan. We're at the point where, like, any MMO or any sort of multiplayer online persistent game model, if you keep your overhead low enough on the team side, you can keep the lights on for a very long time with just a couple 100,000 players. You don't need like old school World of Warcraft 11 million concurrent player numbers like that. Those are like unrealistic, inflated. Just like no one's going to achieve those numbers ever again. I think it's just unrealistic. But again, if you have people paying a monthly subscription, or you're constantly pumping out microtransaction items, so just like get some new gear, get a new gun, get a new outfit, whatever, you can just keep going for a long time. So I think, like, certainly Respawn plans on just pumping out content for as long as people are buying it and paying their salaries, because that's how that works. They'll call it a day when it's no longer profitable.
Now, do you stream?
No, I'm actually, like, I just came up with this idea an hour ago. I haven't played games in a few years, and I actually just started getting the itch again. Like, during this whole pandemic and national political crisis and all this stuff, I'm very a little too politically aware and cognizant. It's very easy for me to get sucked into the news and things, and not take time out to disconnect and like do nice things or interesting things. It's been easy to like consume television and film because I don't have to do anything. I just sit there and it comes at me and I absorb it. It doesn't require my participation, so my mind can unwind. Whereas games require me to do things and think. Just a couple nights ago, I downloaded a bunch of Amanita Studio games. They're a little studio in Prague in the Czech Republic, and they make I cannot stand puzzle games, point-and-click adventure games, whatever. But there are exceptions when the game, the music, the audio is just so compelling and gorgeous, and Amanita games are just stunning. And it kind of works to my advantage because whereas, like, I'm sure an Amanita game for, like, a normal human takes, like, an hour or 2 hours to get through, it takes me, like, 20 to 30 hours because I'm so stupid. And I'm stubborn, and I won't look up walkthroughs unless I'm just screaming. So I get more out of it. So like I just started their newest one called Creeks. Like I think maybe one of the well-known ones a few years back was Machinarium. Just astounding artistry in those games. And hilariously, they don't have VO. But the music, the sound effects, the artwork is just sick. So to answer your question about streaming, I'm just a dumb actor. And I just do dumb acting, and I just do dumb acting things. And I've been trying, maybe it's because I'm getting older, like I said, I'm approaching middle age now, I'm 38, I'm trying to figure out my usefulness in the world, because I'm a voice actor for a living, but it's not personally interesting to me, or I don't think it's like really contributing to the world enough in a way that I find personally satisfying. And I know people get like enjoyment and healing and therapy out of characters that I play, because other people have done that for me as well in absorbing their performances. I totally get that, and I respect that, and that's precious and special. But I feel like I could do more. So I think my personal passion is following disinformation and disinformation journalists, and these are the people who, like, day in and day out are following and exposing and writing about bad actors, chaos agents, people who are putting out bad stuff into the world, who are helping unravel the fabric of democracy throughout various nations at once on the planet. It's all very bad, and people need to cover that. And these people, these disinformation journalists, because they're still human beings, it takes a toll. I mean, they have ongoing PTSD, panic attacks, depression, and if they're American, they have little to no mental health resources because we're a nation that doesn't believe in socialized medicine. So whereas other countries you can get therapy for free, therapy in the United States is usually relegated to the wealthy because it tends to average around, $70 to $150 an hour, which is completely impossible for like the average income person. So I actually just like today started thinking about like what can I do, because the only like my belief in like in order to do activism or be an activist, you have to take an action. And every time I get angry about something, I give money away. And then if I keep getting angry, I just give money away harder. Especially in the last 4 years since the last administration, I've become much more aggressive with donating causes that I basically seeking out the people that are handling the problem that I'm angry about, because they're already doing more than I could ever think to. So I'm thinking like maybe I should start streaming, and if any money comes out of that, just give money to like a fund for disinformation journalists for their mental wellness and for them to use for therapy or something. That's something that I just started discussing like literally like an hour ago with disinformation journalists I follow. Because it's something that needs to be addressed, and it's something that I think I can actively do to support. So watch this space. Let's see if I actually do something. I'm trying to I appreciate that I'm an actor and people enjoy that, but I'm just like, yeah, but what else can I do?
Yeah.
Because the VO stuff comes easy. Like I'm very I recognize that I'm just stupidly lucky that I became a voice actor at 30. I sort of waltzed into this career and it just went well. Whereas for other people, it can be a real struggle where they rarely work or they really get cast. People don't know, they don't know what to do with their voices or where to place them, or like a real threat in voiceover is that you stop being in vogue. Like nobody tells you when your sound goes out of fashion, whether it's for commercials or animation or whatever, where like the stuff you used to do just isn't cool anymore and they've moved on and you're the last to know. Right now I'm working plenty, but like that's not forever. So I'm already trying to think ahead of like what else is my value, what is my contribution. And that's like anybody who's listening who wants to be a performer or a voice actor or whatever, you have to live a full life to be a competent actor. Your life can't be all about the job. No job will love you back. It doesn't work that way. And, you know, money and security and all that is fine, but it should definitely not define your life and how you spend your time, because it's just, you can't take it with you. You cannot take the money with you. So you're catching me at a time where I'm just trying to do more and be more, because I'm very angry at how social media has trained us all to sit on our asses and shout about things, but not actually do anything about it, right?
Oh, now, when you mentioned social media, for your fans out there and people that play as your character, do you have a website? I know you mentioned, are you on Twitter, Instagram, all that?
I just came back. I have people who have been following me know that I have made, remade, and deleted Twitter and Instagram like 5 times over the years, because I have a furious love-hate relationship with it, and like I'm sticking to it now. 25 years later since I've come on the internet, and 15, 18 years later since social media, I've finally figured out how to do and handle it. Nobody ever hands you a brochure or gives you a training video on how to be famous on social media. No, like nobody has sent me like marketing materials to review on like how to conduct myself or how to deal with people or how not to react to bait or trolls or whatever. I've had to learn that the very hard way. And I've had to take retreats where I'm just like, this is poison, and inarguably social media is poison and it's bad for you. But I think I've finally nailed a way where I've curated it very, very, very delicately. So I actually have 2 Twitter accounts right now, because I figured, all right, people who don't know me personally are only interested in it. They only want one thing from me, and that's my voice acting, and that's to hear about other things that I'm voice acting in, and that's fair. I understand that. Like it's a completely insane thing when you start following your favorite, I don't know, musician or actor or whatever on social media, and then they say something personal, whether it's political or otherwise, that you don't like, and the knee-jerk reaction is like, stick to acting. Well, that's not realistic, because, you know, we're whole people with our own personal internal worlds and lives and things we care about, and they might not align with our fans. So I split off into 2 Twitter accounts now, and it's in the bio, so people basically know what channel they can subscribe to or not subscribe to. Where like my official one, I think it's Fryda Wolff VO. Strictly, I'm trying to strictly do voiceover stuff of like, here's a thing I'm in, enjoy. And then I made a separate account, which is in the bio, where I'm like, but here's where I'm really political, and here's why I'm staying on top of like COVID news. And this is where I live. This is the stuff that's interesting to me. And you don't have to follow me. And you can see it in the ratios of the numbers. Because, like, obviously, in the voiceover Twitter, I have more followers than I'm following. And, of course, in the political ones, I'm following way more than people are following me. And that's totally fair. And that's just something I've had to do where being on social media is more than a marketing tool for me. I'm still like a human being, and there's still stuff that I care about and that I'm not going to stop caring about just because I'm an actor. But I do think it's a fair convenience and a consideration to fans of mine who don't want to hear about my political views or whatever, where I just like mostly split off and I live in my other accounts. Like, just social media was just not developed to make people really like each other in the long term. I mean, I can't advocate for anything more than, like, don't follow your real life friends on social media. Don't follow your spouse. Don't follow your family. Because that's how you get in arguments with your drunk uncle on Facebook. What was the point of this? Like, you don't want to know what they think about XYZ. You're just going to fight. And then, you know, you're already going to fight at Thanksgiving. Don't go to each other's house at Thanksgiving this year. My God. But you get what I'm saying. I am on social media, but, you know, nearly 20 years later of being on the internet, I think I'm finally starting to figure out how to use it in a way that is healthy to me.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. When people play Apex, tell them again, what character should they be using?
Loba, but also don't use Loba because her ass is fine. So maybe play as someone else so you can enjoy. I'm just saying, she was built to be admired.
Well, I want to thank you. I hope all the fans enjoyed this. I know I did. You know, I encourage them to play the game, to go to your website, to check you out on social media. And I hope you can come back and join us one day.
Absolutely. Hopefully someday IRL and not on a hazmat.
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. You have been listening to the Chronicles of Hollywood History. Thank you from Gomez Richmond Productions.